And our guest is here on the program. We have with us a legendary artist, drummer, who has performed with numerous legendary artists, bands from Clapton to the Average White Band, Duran Duran, Stevie Winwood. Over 20 years with Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers. We welcome in the legendary Steve Ferrone. Steve, thanks so much for your time.
Thank you very much. Nice to be here. I think it's early.
It's an honor to speak with one of the best in the business, Steve. Your body of work is extraordinary and voluminous. You have toured and recorded alongside so many acclaimed artists. And I want to begin, Steve, early 1960s. You're 12 years old, and you get the opportunity to open up for The Who. How does something like that happen?
Well, they used to come down, this is like in the height of the Mods and the Rockers thing. The Who had started their climb to being a favorite amongst the mods, and they used to come down and play at this club in Brighton. I think it was called the Florida Rooms. It's a tiny little club. It's still there today, but it's not a club, but it's actually the entrance to the aquarium in Brighton. And so the stage is still there. You can actually, when you walk in there, you can still see it. It's always, when you're young. You go to these places and they seem a bit bigger than what they actually are. When you're older, you go to the place. I don't remember it being this small. Well, that's what I walked in there a couple of years back, and that's what it was like. But I was playing with this local band of these kids that were like older than me. I was 12, and they were all like 18. But they liked the way that I played, so kids that age used to usually beat up on kids my age, but I guess they like the way I played, so they sort of let me off easy.
Yeah, and that was a time right before the Who's single "My Generation" came out, I believe.
That's right. They were gaining enormous popularity amongst the mods. Yeah. So
really cool. So right off the bat, you got the chance to showcase your talent. So during the 1960s, Steve, you continued to play with, your early bands, and then you were in Italy, and you meet up with Robbie McIntosh of the Average White Band. Talk about what happened there and how you were ushered into the Average White Band.
Well, I went to Italy. Actually, I went to Italy for a week. And I ended up staying there for 3 years, and I got asked to stay and play for an American artist, a guy named Ronnie Jones, who's still alive today. He's 83 years old, God bless him. And Ronnie, what happened? We got in an accident on the way down there in bad weather, in snow. And we put all our equipment on the train and went down to Italy. We get down and we played at this club. And Ronnie was there in this club, and I think he was being managed by the owner of the club, and he came down every night and saw us play, and then he came up and said, "Listen, I've got some gigs. You want to stay down here and work with me?" And offered me what was then an enormous amount of money. Well, it wasn't an enormous amount of money, but it was actually a working wage, a good working wage, which I'd never earned doing anything before that. So I ended up in this pensione, and there was another band called the Senate, and the Senate, Robbie McIntosh was in the Senate, and the guy named Alex Lidgetwood, who later went on to sing with Santana. And it was me and Calvin Bullen was staying in the guy named Calvin Bullen was staying in this pensione, and so we sort of made friends with these two guys from the other band. We used to go out and see other bands play and go and hang out and drink bottles of wine and do stupid stuff that 17-year-old kids do. So it was fun. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, and I believe you recorded something like 9 or 10 albums with AWB, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, I did. Yeah. I think it was about 10 albums. Yeah, we did a lot of work. Of course, the last one that we did, I still can't listen to it. Just didn't like it at all. One little bit. It was an album called Cupid's in Fashion, which probably nobody heard of, but it doesn't really matter because it sucked. But everything else was good.
No, and I got to tell you, I have your discography right in front of me, and I mean, as I mentioned, I mean, the body of work that you have done is so voluminous and extraordinary. I mean, the artists which you either performed with or composed for, I mean, Average White Band, George Benson, Paul Simon, I mean, even who I think is the greatest rap lyricist of all time. You composed music for Eric B. and Rakim. I mean, talk about working with some of these artists. I mean, what was your experience like? Let's start with Eric Clapton.
Well, yeah, I mean, you know, there was Eric. I got a phone call. I met actually. What happened was I was in London at a Bob Geldof's knighthood party in the Hard Rock in London, and Phil Collins came up to me and he said, "Hey Steve, how you doing?" I said, "Fine." He said, "Did you ever meet Eric Clapton?" I said, "Well, I met him once a long time ago. He sort of showed up at an Average White Band concert and hung out, came back, said hi to the band for a little bit, and that was about it." But he said, he said, "Come over." He said, "I'm sitting over here hanging out. We go hang out with Eric a bit." And so I went over and I sat down and we chatted a bit and just a little bit of social chit chat. And then I said, "Well, I better get back over to my crowd over there, my party that I was there with, and nice meeting you." And that was it. And then a few weeks later, I got a phone call about how, you know, would you like to go play with Eric? He hadn't done anything in a long time, and was going to go and play a couple of little clubs, one up in Boston and one in New York. And I said, "Yeah, that would be fun to do. I'd like to do that. I'd like to play with Eric." And so I just went in and did those shows. And Greg Fillingates and Nathan East were in the band, and I knew them from the session scene in Los Angeles. I've done some recording with them, and that turned into, I think, like a 10-year stint with that band. It was great. And it was a very busy year for me. The first year was very busy because I was working with Duran Duran and Eric Clapton, so I spent about 3 weeks at home. But, but then something had to change, and I was having such a great time playing with Eric. It was a really great band. It was really a great band. It went from the quartet to a larger band with Phil Palmer, Alan Clark, Ray Cooper, Tessa Niles, Katie Kassoon, and so it expanded out from that. I used to go, and when we did 24 nights, we actually went, you know, from being the quartet to being the big band, or what I called the big band, and then we had a whole thing that we did with an 80-piece orchestra on 24 nights, and that was with Michael Kamen was the musical director of that. He's an amazing arranger and just a great guy. He worked on a lot of Tom Petty stuff too, on the Wildflowers album. He did string arrangements for that, and he became a really good friend too. So yeah, and Eric's such a great player. You know, he's just an amazing player. He had to, I think the difficult thing about playing with Eric was that, you know, he had to be Eric Clapton every night. I mean, he had to go out there and be inspired and play great solos every night. It's a difficult thing to do. And so our job was, you know, some nights he'd just walk out there and he was on fire, he could go, but other nights it would be difficult to get started, and our job basically was to get him going, you know. And I think we did that very, very well. The band was an excellent band. Yeah. Yeah.
And you mentioned Duran Duran. How did that position come about?
Well, Duran Duran had broken up at one point. They split up, and I think they were doing some individual products had come out. I think Some Like It Hot, that was Power Station. There was John Taylor and Nick Rhodes, I think. And was it John? No, it was John and Andy. Andy had done that. And then there was another band that Simon and Nick had done, and my drum tech had been in a guy named Artie Smith had been working in a studio, and John Taylor was there, and I think Artie had asked him, what they were doing, and they said, well, we're thinking about getting Duran Duran back together. And he said, but our drummer has decided to become a farmer, and he doesn't want to go out on the road anymore. And so he said, who's any drummers that might fit the bill? And hold on a second, as my girlfriend was calling me on the phone. Sorry, fiance. Oops. And John said, and Artie said to me, he said, well, you see, Steve Ferrone's playing around a lot. Average White Man had finished, and I was just doing sessions around New York, doing a lot of sessions. And so John asked to meet me, and we met, and he said, look, we're thinking about putting the band back together. He said, how would you feel about coming out over to London and just sort of like playing with us and see what we can come up with? And I said, fine, yeah, I'd love to. So I went over to London, and it was at that point, it was just John and Nick, and that was it. And I think that there was I think Simon was hesitant to start the band up again, the band politics into band politics and stuff, and then he showed up. We just messed around in the studio, doing some writing, and coming up with grooves, and and then Simon showed up one day and came in and listened to the music and took it away for a day, and I changed some chords and made it a bit more from just being grooves into song form, and he had ideas for melody, and then he came and it really didn't sound like Duran Duran until Simon opened his mouth and had a couple of lyrics, and there it was. The sound of Duran Duran was complete, so we set about recording Notorious, which turned out to be a pretty good album and a pretty good comeback album for the band. I think but it was only Simon and John and Nick that were the original members of that band. But that was the core of Duran Duran. So I guess they had the rights to the name.
We're talking with the legendary Steve Ferrone of Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers. Let's talk about Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers, Steve. So Stan Lynch, who was the original drummer, who you replaced, I read that he gets fired from the band, and you get the call. Tell us what happened there.
Well, it didn't exactly happen that way. What happened was that I got a call. I was in New York, and I got a call to go out to Los Angeles. Could I go out to Los Angeles and do a recording session? I said, yeah, sure. Who for? And they said, well, we can't tell you. It's top secret. And I said, oh, wow, top secret. Well, no. How's that about? Okay, fine. So I did a deal with them. It always costs more money when it's got to be top secret. I did a deal with them, and I went out to Los Angeles for a week. And when I arrived at the studio, Kenny Arnoff's drum kit was coming out of the studio, and my drum kit was being set up. And I walked in there, and there was Mike Campbell and Tom Petty. And I'd met Mike Campbell. I've met Mike Campbell before with George Harrison. He came and played a concert with George Harrison, and he's just an amazing player. I love playing with him. He's just really terrific player, instinctual player, and And so he was a surprise, and then we sat down and we cut "You Don't Know How It Feels." That was the first song that we cut together, you know, it was just a fantastic. I had a really fantastic experience of playing. I mean, we did the first block of recordings, and then I think about 6 months later, I came back out and did a second block of recordings with them, and that was basically the Wildflowers album, which you know, fantastic album, just an incredible album. And
no question.
But what I came to find out from was that you know, at that point, I mean, even when I got the call to go out on the road, actually I was on the road. I was working with Brian Ferry, and I got a call from my then girlfriend who said to me, you know, Tom Petty just called up and needs you to call him. And I thought, what does he want? You know, I did the album, and I thought that was about it, you know. And so I called him back, and he said, "Hey, Steve," he said, "you know, what are you doing next year?" And I said, "Well, nothing." I said, "But I haven't got that far yet." I said, he said, "Well, would you want to come out on the road and work with us?" And I said, "Well, listen, I'd love to, but I mean, what's up with Stan?" I mean, I didn't even know Stan, but I knew who Stan Lynch was. You know, I knew he was the drummer of the Heartbreakers. And Tom just told me that, you know, he said they were having some disagreements about stuff, and that they wanted me to come out. You know, if they wondered if I would do the gig. And I said, and the way the conversation went was that, you know, I said, "But Tom, I've been in bands, and bands are basically dysfunctional families, you know." I said, I hope you guys can reconcile the differences that you're having, because I just know how that is. You guys have been together for a long time. I said, look, I'm really flattered that you're offering me this gig, and I'd love to do it. You know, I said, but I said, if you talk to Stan first and just see if you guys can work that out. I said, no harm, no foul. I'm fine with that. And I said, but if you really can't work it out, then we'll call me back. And Tom said, fair enough. That sounds fair enough. He said, okay, I'll be in touch. And the next day my phone rang, and it was Tom, and he said, you're working next year. And I said, oh, okay, well, thank you very much. The story of what happened, I think, was that Stan wasn't too thrilled with the music. He didn't really like the way that the band was going, and voiced his opinion. And Tom was resolute in going down the road that he was going. He wanted to do what he was doing, and that's kind of what happened, I guess, with the band. So it broke up.
Yeah, and I've read what Stan has said in the past. Stan has been very public on this. He says, that Petty was tired of his play and wanted a change. So he's been very public on that. But I have a few minutes left, and I want to get into the year 2017 and the unfortunate death of Tom Petty, unexpected. Tell us how you heard the news.
I was in San Francisco. I'd been doing a gig in San Francisco. I've been playing with a friend of mine, Kenneth Bryan, and I wanted to get back to Los Angeles early in the morning, so I had a 5:00 flight out of San Francisco, and I took a hotel down by the airport, and so that I could get up that early. Didn't have too far to go. And I was in my hotel, I was kind of tired for the day. We played a concert for the day, and I went to sleep about 9:30 that evening, and I woke up at 1:00 in the morning, and I was awake, so I just turned on the TV, and I started to watch the news, and I was watching the horror that was happening in Las Vegas with the shooter in Las Vegas.
Right.
And I was sitting there listening to the sounds of those machine guns, and I just couldn't believe it. Sounded like a war zone. I was just sitting there in disbelief, and my phone started to ring. And I just thought, well, it's probably just some people in England calling, overly dramatic. Oh, were you there? Are you there? And I just ignored it. And the phone rang, and then it stopped, and then it immediately rang again. And I thought, oh, geez. And it was across the other side of the room. So I got out of bed and I walked over and I picked up the phone. I looked at the phone. It was Benmont, and Benmont's wife was pregnant at that time. And I remember Benmont saying something to me that somebody was non-responsive, that there was a problem, that somebody was non-responsive. And I remember saying to Ben, your wife's passed away? And he said, no. He said, Tom is gone. And I remember just being stunned, because it had been maybe not even a full week, maybe it was 5 days before I'd seen him at the Hollywood Bowl, that we'd spent, the last, I went over to, he had taken the hotel room, went over to his hotel room, and there was just me and Julia, and a couple of, Dana, his wife, his security guard, and a couple of friends from Malibu that were there, and we were just sitting around and having a couple of Coca-Colas, because some didn't drink that much, and didn't drink at all, and we had a little food. He got a little food there, and he was talking about his plans and what he wanted to do, and it was the thing that was the least expected. It just didn't seem real at all. But it was 25 years with the Heartbreakers I spent playing with the Heartbreakers. I'm still involved with the Heartbreakers. It's been 29 years now. I'm a disc jockey as well. I do what you do, I guess, on Tom Petty Radio. I got a radio show. It's something that Tom started me off doing. He said, "Why don't you I got this radio station. Why don't you do a radio show?" And I did that. And I never know when the grief is when we're going to feel the grief of the shock loss like that. But he was a wonderful man, a wonderful friend, an amazing musician, amazing songwriter, incredible songwriter, and we miss him every day. Yeah.
And I believe you said it the best in an interview. You said Tom was one of the most prolific songwriters of all time.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, the strength of the Heartbreakers was the songwriting. I mean, we could go out and do a greatest hits tour, and then we could go out and not play one of those songs and still have a show full of hits. I mean, I'm not talking about charting hits. I'm talking about hits that people knew. People knew his songs. People knew his lyrics. He just had a way of putting a song together that was just memorable and meaningful. And everybody thought that one of Tom Petty's songs was written about them. Yeah.
And they're telling me I have 1 minute, Steve. So what have you been up to? What are you doing?
Well, right now I'm sitting in a hotel in Yakima in Washington, and I'm about to go and do a show with a band called Generation Radio, which consists of former members of Chicago and oh God, huge country band. Just blanked.
Country band?
Yeah, huge. 3 guys.
Not the Oak Ridge Boys, no?
No. Oh, dang. Hold on, let me look here. I have to look it up on my computer. Well, anyway, so I'm doing that right now. I'm playing a private party tonight. That's what I'm going to do that. And then I'm going to go to. Actually, next year I'm going to go out on tour with John Mayer.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. So that's a pretty. I'm really looking forward to that. That's a great band too. Let me see Google.
Well, listen, I wish we had more time. I had this epic solo that I wanted to play that I found, which you performed in 1983 in Japan.
George Duke.
I'm out of time.
Well, maybe
Hopefully
we can
do it again.
Maybe we can do it again.
I really appreciate your time. Thank you so much. It was an honor to have you.
Yeah, I just wish my brain would work a little bit better this summer.
And I thank you for being up so early. I have to send you a nice gift card.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Is it a voucher for popcorn or something?
No. We got to keep in contact. Tell me your place of cuisine, and I'll get it to you.
Oh God! Oh, I like to go to an Indian restaurant called Shalimar. How's that? You ever been out there?
I'm writing it down, Steve.
It's in Woodland Hills. Shalimar Cuisine of India. There you go. I'm giving a big plug on the way. It's the best Indian foods in Los Angeles, I believe.
There you go. Hey, listen, an honor, and we'll speak again.
Hey, thank you. Thank you very much. Nice speaking with you.
Take care. That was the great Steve Ferrone, Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers. Until next week, happy collecting to all.